A man once told me that if he catches a man trying to rape someone, he will castrate him, and that he prays that God never puts him in such a position. While rape is disgusting to some, please take note of those who try to defend it. Welcome to Triple F, where we discuss women's sexual, physical, and mental health. Please take the next 5 seconds to hit the subscribe button and turn on your notification. Thank you. This episode is rated 18. Viewers' discretion is highly advised. The way you view a robber is the same way I want you to view a rapist. So while a man can forget to lock his house, which makes it easier for the robber to come in at night, that robber already has plans of robbing. So if he fails with the first victim, definitely is going to move on to the next. Like most crimes, the number one reason why a rapist may rape you is because he believes he can get away with it. He knows your fears, senses your naivety, and sees your vulnerability, and that drives him to take his move. There are 5 things that define your vulnerability. 1. Can you defend yourself, and with what? So are you in the military? Do you take karate classes? Or do you have any form of weapon like a penknife, taser, pepper spray, or a gun? 2. Can he overpower you, and how? So he considers his stature against yours, if he can threaten you with weapons, or if he can bring his friends along. 3. How easily accessible are you? So can he do it over at your place or invite you over to his? Can he meet you at a party or on the street or take you to a hotel room? 4. Can you prove that he raped you, and how? Physically, he looks at the presence of a phone, CCTV, or other form of cameras that can take recordings of the rape, and the presence of a witness. And medically, the presence of a semen in your vagina, which can be examined for his DNA. 5. Will you report him, and to whom? So is it to your family members or his? Will you report him to the police or the president? How many strings can you pull to actually expose him and make sure he ends up in jail? Let's take a look at 2 scenarios. An orphan who is the only child and decides to go for an all-night party without any form of protection has a tendency of getting raped than a girl who has 2 hefty brothers who gets home before 10 p.m. and moves around with a pepper spray. A young woman shared with me how she was constantly raped by her cousin, but the day she summoned up courage and stabbed him with a penknife was the end of his ordeals with her. He lived. In our society where laws are easily violated, the risk becomes higher because these psychopaths believe they can have their way and get away with it. And most times they do. Then there's the issue of stigmatization, shaming, and blaming of the victim, sometimes even by her family members, and I really consider this very disturbing. No doubt there are cases of gang rape which makes it difficult for us to pull up our defenses, and this usually happens during wars, kidnap, and robbery, or by an estranged ex or rejected suitor. Why do men rape women? Simple, because their brains are sometimes controlled by their dicks. So they get horny and everything around them turns into an object for sexual gratification without necessarily taking note of the possible complications this can have on their victims. I will classify rapists into 6 groups. 1. Pedophilic rapists. Since children are the most vulnerable, these rapists prey on their innocence. 2. Sexual entitled rapists. Some cultures permit men to rape women, so this is imprinted into the average man who believes it is his right to actually have sex with whoever, and so does not consider rape as abnormal. This happened during the slave era, and it still happens in some marriages. 3. Power assertive rapists. This occurs in men who feel inadequate or intimidated by a woman and desires a deluded sense of power. This happens in most marriages when a wife deprives her husband of sex, but he believes that her right to her body was relinquished the day he paid her bride price. So he tends to force himself on her against her will just to prove that he is the man of the house. 4. Angry or revengeful rapist. This rapist aspires to hurt and humiliate his victim. This is usually expressed by a man you broke up with, you rejected, or you left at the altar. 5. Sadistic rapist. These men derive pleasure when they hurt you. I call them psychopaths. In fact, I call all rapists psychopaths. They plan, calculate, and orchestrate every plan critically. They may end up killing their victims as this tends to heighten their pleasure. They usually target the vulnerables like prostitutes. 6. Drug facilitated or predator rapist. They take advantage of a victim who have been incapacitated by alcohol or drugs. Most often than not, a rape is rarely a random act. Like robbery, it is usually well thought through by the rapist. We have a flawed mindset of believing so much of what these men say to us that we convince ourselves he's my pastor, friend, brother's friend, godfather, friend's brother, and so he will never try that. Well, check the statistics of rape incidences. Over 80% were from people we were familiar with. A rapist is like coronavirus. So while we eat healthy, practice social distancing, exercise, and even stay at home, we may just have that one infected neighbor who casually visits us, and if we let our guard down, that one contact may just hit us where we are most vulnerable and we end up with the virus. If he can get away with it, a rapist will rape a nun in a monastery. Please drop in your thoughts and your experiences in the comment section below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. And I will see you same time next week, Friday.